ball game. Bill Lasky has shut out the Montreal Expos.
To the mic.
He's the ace of the staff. Let's welcome in Logan Wood, one of the greatest pitching coaches around. Let's bring in Brian Price. Welcome in Lamont Wade Jr. Honored to have my guest on today, Kyle Harrison. Let's bring a friend of mine in, Pat Burrow. Pat, how are you today?
Bill, I'm doing great, man. Glad to be on with you.
Giants fans, this is Extra Innings with Bill Lasky.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
On your exclusive home of the San Francisco Giants, KNBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM, the sports leader.
Pitch. Tremsky swings. It's a high drive. Deep right field. Frazier back at the track. Looking up. It's gone! The Giants with their 5th home run of the day. This one off the bat of Mike Yastrzemski, a 3-run blast into the Royals bullpen. It's 9-0.
Welcome into the Extra Inning postgame show with Bill Lasky, and the Giants played very well once again as they looked into this road trip as one of the hardest road trips they had all season, and they are playing extremely well, going 4-1 so far in 5 games with one more game left in Kansas City tomorrow, and then they're off to Arizona for 3, and they finish the 2024 season next weekend at home against the St. Louis Cardinals. The Giants really took advantage of the home run ball today. 5 home runs were hit. Lamont Wade Jr. hit his 7th and 8th. And Daddy Matt Chapman, of course, he was on paternity leave, and he's got a nice baby girl. He hits 2 also, 25th and 26th. And as you heard coming into the show today, Mike Yastrzemski put the nail in the coffin for the Kansas City Royals, hitting a 3-run home run in that 6th inning when the Giants scored 6 runs, his 18th. And boy, he has just been hot. Since August 24th, he's hit 9 home runs against right-handed pitchers. And boy, he is just starting to see what the Giants want to do with him. 34-year-old Mike Yastrzemski wants to stay here in the San Francisco Giants, and this month of September has been hitting the ball very well. But on the defensive side, we got to look at the pitching, and that started with Landon Root, his 3rd straight start, and he's been pitching very well for the SF Giants, getting his first win in the big leagues today, and it was just a great outing for him, going 5 innings, 3 hits, no earned runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. And he got in trouble mostly every inning at one time. The Kansas City Royals, after the 4th inning, 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position. The 3 walks kind of hurt him, but they never scored. And he continued to keep throwing strikes as he threw 56 strikes in 87 pitches that he threw, 14 first pitch strikes, and I love that about a young pitcher. Of course, last night, Mason Black got his first win in the big leagues, going 5 2/3, only giving up 4 hits, 1 walk, and 4 strikeouts. Both these guys are really the potential of starting pitching for the San Francisco Giants for 2025, and they're both starting to throw consistently. Yesterday in the post-game show, Mason Black just said, I'm starting to feel confident with the people in this locker room. I'm feeling comfortable with them, and that's a big step as a starting pitcher because you want them to be confident with you on the mound, and he sure did yesterday. And Landon Root today, that's his 3rd start going 5 innings. Milwaukee, he went 5 innings, giving up 2 earned runs. His last outing against the Padres was one of the better ones, going 5 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. And today he did it really with a 2-pitch mix, the sinker and a curveball. And a sinker, he threw 39 pitches, the curveball 37 pitches, and that curveball has such a sharp break on it, a 12-6 sharp break, and he got a lot of strikeouts from that. And the other thing, the changeup, he threw 7 changeups, and that speed was really from 94 to 87, a nice change of pace with the changeup. And he mixed in a slider and a fastball, a couple pitches that he's working on. But, Brian Price was really impressive with what Landon Root did today when I say 56 pitches out of 87. And you look at the Kansas City Royals, and they are scuffling. They've lost now 6 in a row. and they were shut out today with only 5 hits. That's the 10th shutout the San Francisco Giants have thrown this year. Giants are now 35-42 on the road. 7 games remaining in the 2024 season. 4 more on the road. Of course, they've won their last 3 road series. They beat San Diego earlier in the month, 2 out of 3. They took 2 out of 3 from Baltimore, and of course they won the first 2 games here against Kansas City. And you look at Baltimore and Kansas City, both teams fighting for a wild card position. When you look at what the Royals have done there, 82-73, and of course Bobby Witt Jr. having just a fantastic year, hitting .334 for the Royals. 808 KNBR, let's get on the phone lines. Let's talk about this team, their future. But before I do that, I have some sad news for the Giants fans. My good friend Timmy Haller, who calls into the show a lot, passed away this past week, and he was 62 years old. His dad, of course, Tom Haller, the general manager, and Joan both passed away. Leaves behind his older brother, Tom Haller Jr., and his daughter. And I just want to wish my condolences to the Haller family, as well as all the friends and family of the Giants Nation, of course, all the Giants fans that listen to this show, because he was part of it. Loved calling in and loved talking baseball. A beloved son, a beloved father, and a beloved brother. Timmy Haller passed away at 62 years old. We'll take a quick break, come right back with Extra Innings on KNBR, the sports leader.
From the mound to the mic, this is KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Lasky.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Hear him by saying to your smart speaker, play KNBR.
For sure, maybe at the beginning of the day, and then once I got into the flow of the game, I was more in the moment, more focused on the game. But when I hit the homer, I left and told her that I was going to hit a homer for her. So the fact that I hit a homer, it definitely was exciting. I just was thinking about her when I was running around the bases.
All right, back on Extra Innings. That was Matt Chapman talking about telling his wife, who's a new mama of a baby girl, I'm going to hit a home run for you today. And I loved what he said as he was going around the bases. That's what he remembered. And he didn't hit one, he hit two, 25th and 26 on the year, and 75 RBIs. And he's locked up next 6 years with the San Francisco Giants. And that's a proud daddy right there. And I'm very happy for him and his wife, baby girl. And it's on to the next stage of his life. And he's going to be with the San Francisco Giants in the orange and black for the next 6 years. And I'm very proud that the Giants did that because he's a class guy on and off the field. Giants win today 9-0, their 10th shutout on the year. They're 8-10 on September. And this is a good chance, 7 games left, to really kind of put the pedal to the metal, see how many wins they can get. And they're doing it in impressive ways today. Of course, 5 home runs. 2 by Chapman, 2 by Lamont Wade Jr., and the one that really was the crusher was in that 6th inning when Mike Yastrzemski hit a 3-run home run. But there was kind of an unsung hero in this lineup today, and it was Kirk Caselli. Caught a great game with Len Roop, Spencer Bivens, and Tristan Beck really all threw well. And he ends up going 2 for 4 today with a nice base hit for 2 RBIs in that 6th inning. It opened up the game. And, of course, he's been a guy on the back burner the whole year, Tom Murphy being injured. And, of course, when you're looking at Patrick Bailey being the starting catcher, and he's been running out of fumes, Kirk Caselli's been a great addition to this team. Where is he going to be next year? Most likely not with the Giants. But sure enough, a lot of pitchers love throwing to him, and his leadership is just utmost one of the best. And I just happy to talk about Kirk Caselli a little bit. All right, 808 KNBR, if you want to get on the phone lines, let's talk to Bob from Saratoga. He's been waiting for a while. Bob, how are you on a Saturday afternoon?
Doing well, Bill. Thanks. I want to make a case for keeping Yaz. There's been a lot of talk on KNBR about this is his last year. And the reasons is he's a great defensive right fielder, and this is a difficult right field to play. But he's also a clutch hitter. He's a pro, and he's got some home run power. I think he'd be a great left-handed pinch hitter on the bench, and his salary's not really that high as compared to, let's say, Conforto, who I think makes double. And he's been a disappointment, even though he's starting to hit finally.
Bob, when you look at both Conforto and Yaz, if they're going to keep one, you'd probably think Yaz. Conforto's a little younger. Of course, Yaz is 34 years old and really got hot here in the last month of August and September. But if you look at the first half of the year, he was not hitting at all, striking out a lot. His batting average is still down at 235. But this spurt of hitting home runs, as I said, since August 24th, 9 home runs against a right-handed pitcher. And it really started when they moved him to the first spot in the lineup, because I think that has just proven to people that he can put the ball in play. The strikeouts are still up there, but I'm with you. I'm 50-50 with it, Bob, about signing him. He goes to arbitration. He's making $8 million this year. It might go from 10 to 12. A lot of players that have equal numbers that he have, you said it, they're a lot higher, 15 million or more. And I just don't know the direction of what the Giants want to do with him. Is he going to be a fourth outfielder? Could he be in this lineup against right-handers? It's going to really be on how they view the forecast of what they want to do in the outfield position.
Well, Lee really hasn't had a chance to prove himself in the major leagues. He was great in Korea. I mean, there's still somewhat of an if with him. He's got to play next year and show that he can hit major league pitching. So I think I'm talking about one more year for Yastrzemski, not a big long contract.
Yeah, it's going to be a good question mark there. I think it's going to be a question mark. Great guy on and off the field, family man. I mean, he's one of the best in the clubhouse. All the right things that are happening for him, but he's got to produce a little bit better. I think over the last couple of years, the numbers on the batting average are down. This year, of course, 18 home runs. It'd be great if he hit 20 home runs and get the RBIs up over 60. And you said it, one of the best outfielders, got a great arm, plays right field extremely well. Kid plays center field, possible fourth outfield. You're going to have Ramos in the corner. You'll have Jung-Hoo Lee in center. McRae is now fighting to possibly be up here with his speed and his agility in the outfield. But then I don't know what the free agent market's going to be with outfielders, because you definitely need some power in one of those corners. And Yastrzemski gets on, but the power numbers just aren't there yet.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is the torture of having DeVille come in and throw so many balls in a row, can't even throw a strike. I think you ought to trade him for a power hitter, because he has had his good years in the past, and I think there's some teams that might be interested in him. And if we can get something good for him, because our pitching has really improved in the last couple of weeks, and we've got a lot of depth in the bullpen now with all these guys.
Yeah, I would think he's a possibility, but again, they threw his name out at the trade deadline. There wasn't many takers. The ability is there. The proof is in the arm. He throws 100, got a wipeout slider, but he's just had an off year this year, and I don't know if I'm ready to trade him because he's got that lights out stuff. Walker's done a great job. The last game against Baltimore hung a slider, but when you take that out, he didn't get scored upon for over 6 weeks. And you said it. They have depth in the bullpen. We'll find out what they want to do. But I know Bob Melvin wants Camilo Duvall down there because he has that lights-out stuff. But we'll find out. There's going to be a lot of ands, if, ors moving forward. And, of course, ands, if, ors of what's going to happen with Farhan and Bob Melvin. So finish out the season, Bob, with 7 left, and hopefully they'll stay on a nice roll.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much, Bill. Thanks.
Bob, appreciate your time. Let's go to Dennis in San Jose. Dennis, you're on Extra Innings with Bill Lasky. How are you on a Saturday afternoon?
Fine, Bill. This is probably the last call I call you this year. I just want to say that I think we should keep Farhan one more year. I know people are saying to get rid of him, but it wasn't his fault, really. He got the players. He paid for these players to do a good job, okay? Soler, he blew the whole thing because we were figuring him to hit 30, 40 home runs, because he's done it, and he didn't do nothing. We got rid of him. Luckily, we got rid of the contract. But, these players, you look
Let me ask you this, Dennis. 6 years he's been here, 5 years they did not make the playoffs. Is that something you can judge your base on?
No, you're right there. You're right. It looks bad, but I still would give him one more year. That's it, because this year wasn't his fault. He got the players. He got the third baseman. He had 2 rookies that played real good. He had Lee. He had Lee in center field. He got hurt. Okay, that's a bad thing right there. Then you got Michael Yastrzemski that wasn't hitting, and now he's starting to hit like crazy. And he should have been doing that at the beginning of the year. And then
so Dennis, let me ask you another. Dennis, they're 76 and 79. Once again, they're not making the playoffs. Whose fault is it?
Well, I don't know. I don't know, Bill.
Well, do you blame Farhan? Do you blame Bob Melvin? Do you blame the coaching staff, the players? I think it's a circle. I think it's the blame for all of them, and somebody's going to have to take the blame of it. Of course, all Giants fans are pointing directly to Farhan, like you mentioned. A lot of them are even talking about Bob Melvin. I think it's a circle of the entire organization. You do have some upcoming players coming up, and Eldridge is one of them that could possibly be that light down the tunnel here of darkness on some of these prospects because they didn't pan out. You look at Luciano, now he gets taken out of the big league team, headed to Arizona, and now they're talking about him playing the outfield. And here was a 22, 23, 24-year-old kid that was supposed to be your starting shortstop. So where did that go bad? Where did that go negative? What do you think about some of those thoughts, Dennis?
Yeah, well, the players, I think, had a lot to do with it. They didn't play up to their potential. As simple as that. They didn't play up to their potential, and you got to blame them. You got to put the blame on them, really, because they're the ones out there to play. They're producing. They got to produce. You're paying them good money to produce, and they weren't producing this year.
They weren't.
I mean that's where it's at. I mean,
that's kind of where my thoughts are. I look at Bob Melvin and his coaching staff, and they'll take blame, no question about that. Farhan will take blame, no question there. And I think you're absolutely right. The players that were supposed to have breakout years did not. The veteran leadership that was in that clubhouse did not have good years. Yeah. When you start looking at all these batting averages, and you say Michael Conforto 232, that's not Michael Conforto. But again, this is his last year. I don't think the Giants will re-sign him.
No, I don't think
you also have a good couple other ones. So Dennis, we'll find out. But I think Farhan's in a hot seat right now.
And the manager, they're saying, "Oh, get rid of the manager." The manager, listen, that manager, when he was with the Oakland A's, he coached that team, and they won 100 ball games for about 2 years in a row, I think. He went to San Diego. He coached there. He had good teams. I'm trying to say is that he's coaching here. Now, do you think last year's coach was better than this year's coach? I disagree. Even though their records don't show it, they had a better year this year than they had last year because the players are better. We found out a third baseman. He's great. We've got a center fielder. He's great. We got a rookie in the outfield that he only played 4 years.
Well, Dennis, we'll find out with all these moves, and you being probably 1 out of 100 that wants to keep Farhan. There's a lot of people that want to change in the leadership. They want something different. And all we can do, Dennis, is wait and find out. But thanks for all the calls this year, Dennis. I appreciate your time.
See you next year.
All right, let's go to San Jose and talk to Lance. Lance, you're on Extra Innings with Bill Lasky. How are you today?
Hey, Bill, can you hear me okay? I'm on speaker.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine right there, Lance. And, a good game today by the Giants, 9-0, some home run balls. What did you think overall of the game today?
I thought that the unsung hero of the game was our closer who pitched the 8th inning. He came in and threw 5 pitches and got 3 outs.
Mm-hmm.
Then he went to the 9th and got those outs. He was
Tristan Beck. Yep, he has been really pitching well ever since he's come off the IL. And, that was just a devastating injury he had. He had to fight through it. Couldn't do anything for many months. He just had to recuperate. And you know how hard that was for him. But I've always liked Tristan Beck as a reliever, even as a starter. He was penciled in as a 5th starter until that aneurysm was found in his neck and he had to have surgery. But you're absolutely right. He threw the ball very well. 16 pitches today, Lance, 13 for strikes.
I couldn't believe that, Bill. And that's all I wanted to say was, all the other players with the home runs and Lamont Wade and, everybody else, fantastic. But I thought he was the unsung hero with the 8th and 9th inning, the way he shut it down.
Yeah, Spencer Bivens also, Lance. He had a nice 2 innings. There's this whole pitching style today when you saw Landon Roop with a curveball sinker, Spencer Bivens with a sinker and a slider, and Tristan Beck really just came in through strikes. 13 out of 16, as I said, and he was devastating. He went right at him and got 6 straight outs.
We're pitching crazy good. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, you know what it is. You're absolutely right. And when you look at Roop and Mason Black, guys that are supposed to eat up innings, and now they're starting to pitch well, both of them getting their first win in the major leagues yesterday and today, it's a good positive point for these young pitchers.
Well, lifelong Giants fan, so let's go.
All right, Lance. Thanks for the call today. I appreciate your time. Let's go up to Sebastopol and talk to Jeff. Jeff, you're on with Bill Lasky on KNBR. How's your day going?
Hey, Bill, how you doing? Thanks for all your work this season.
Oh, I thank you so much. Got another weekend ahead, tomorrow again, and then the last 3 games against St. Louis. But another fun season, doing extra innings as well as doing other work during the week. But a lot of great fan support, and I only can thank all of you.
A couple of questions for you. I can take them off air. One was...
go ahead. We can talk. We got plenty of time, Jeff.
All right. Players and managers... they all go through learning curves about how they develop. I was wondering what your opinion is of how Farhan has developed the team, if he's learned anything in the 6 seasons. That's one question. The other question was, do you think they've handled Luciano properly? And I know.
Boy, I stay right there, Jeff. I definitely want to talk about Luciano, and it's similar to what I see with Joey Bart, pulling him up, taking him down, changing things, trying to change the direction from shortstop to second base. Now they're changing another aspect of his game. Now they want him to play the outfield. Right. Just coming up to the big leagues, I really felt the game was too fast for him. Making a couple errors, if you remember when he was playing shortstop, made a couple errors in the 8th and 9th inning, and it just destroyed his confidence. Put him back down in AAA, hitting a cover off the ball, but he came up to the big leagues, a lot of call strike threes, and I really think his confidence is shot. I really do, as a young kid, and it's troublesome because here's a Latin player that doesn't speak much English, and he's around a lot of players that they don't understand him. I look at Camilo Doval the same way. A lot of players don't understand him because he doesn't speak English. And the mannerisms is what everybody looks at, how he handles different things and how he approaches it. And I'm sure you'll remember this with Camilo Doval when he came in and threw the water cooler and got all upset. And, those are mannerisms that when you look at young players, those are mannerisms that tell me that they're not mature yet.
All right, fair enough. What about Farhan?
Your other question about Farhan and so much young talent. 2 years ago, I was hoping he'd open the gate a little bit more. I was pushing Elliot Ramos 2 years ago, and he never did. And I still think Elliot Ramos got pushed to the big leagues because of injury. And if Jung-Hoo Lee didn't get hurt, I wonder if they would have brought him up. But since the middle of May, he's probably one of the best young talented players that have come up to the big leagues and really did a great job. But there's a handful of other players, Jeff, that didn't. And you look at Casey Schmidt and the yo-yo he's been on. Matos, he's a National League Player of the Week, the yo-yo he's on. Sometimes, as I said earlier about Luciano, that's a confidence, not a builder. It's a negative.
Right. Do you think people are laying blame on Farhan and Melvin and things, but how are the decisions made about the
it's made inside. Farhan makes most of the decisions. There's more of, a panel of guys that talk about it. It's just not him making the final decision. But it's also brought into Bob Melvin. And, reports come back that Farhan gets the players up and down. Melvin puts them in the lineup or not. And I just don't understand that. I kind of disagree with that. I think Melvin and his coaching staff kind of try to put it together. And I think that's one of the big things that people don't understand. He has a lot of support in that locker room. And he looks at a lot of great names and coaches that he's had for many years. So we'll find out how this moves forward. It's going to be interesting how they finish up here. To go to Baltimore and take 2 out of 3 against a team that's really struggling. Same thing with Kansas City. Both these teams are going into the playoffs, and the Giants are really manipulating both of them. And to me, I looked at Kansas City today. I looked at them yesterday. I thought they'd have a lot better offense, and now they're going negative. They've lost 6 in a row.
Yep. Well, thanks for your time, man, and I hope you have a good off season, but one more week.
Yep. All right, Jeff. Well, thanks for the call. I appreciate your time. All right, phone calls, 808 KNBR. Stay on the calls. I got 5 holding. We got to take a quick break. Come back with more right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
This is KNBR Extra Innings with former Giants right-hander Bill Lasky.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Hear him on your Apple HomePod by saying play KNBR. Play KNBR.
Hit it up over the Royals bullpen. Swings here, launches one deep right towards the corner. Frazier back. It is gone. And Lamont Wade Jr. does it again. His second home run in his many at-bats. Pitch to Chapman. He swings, hits a high drive, deep center. Isbell on the move, going back at the track. He leaps. It's gone. And the Giants go back-to-back. And for Matt Chapman, welcome back. Became a new father just 2 days ago. And showing off that dad power.
All right, welcome back to the Extra Inning Post-Game Show on a Saturday. Giants hit 5 home runs, and they take the second game of a 3-game series against the Kansas City Royals 9-0. Their 10th shutout. It went from Landon Roop throwing 5 innings, Bivens 2, and Tristan Beck 2. And the San Francisco Giants now are 76-79. Tomorrow, first pitch, an early one, 11:10 a.m. right here on KNBR. Blake Snell on the mound, 4-3 with a 3.3 earned run average against Seth Lugo, who's having a fantastic year with the Kansas City Royals, 16-8 with a 3.05 earned run average. Coming up later today, Willie Wilson. I got to sit down with Willie. Of course, he played 19 years in Major League Baseball and really achieved a lot. 2-time American League All-Star. He was a World Series champion in 1985 with the Royals, a Gold Glove winner, and he was also inducted into the Kansas City Hall of Fame. You don't want to miss that interview with Willie Wilson. All right, it's standings update, and that's sponsored by the Alameda County Probation Department. Visit joinacpd.org today for a career that matters. A lot of things going on later in the night on Saturday. The LA Dodgers are first pitch at 6:10 against the Colorado Rockies. They're 92-67 on the season. San Diego Padres are also playing the White Sox at 5:40 today. They're 88-66. The Arizona Diamondbacks are playing in Milwaukee. They are winning 3-0 in the middle of the fifth. They're 86-68. Of course, the Giants beat the Royals 9-0. They're 76-79. And like I said, the Rockies are entertaining the Dodgers today at 6:10. They are 59-95. A lot of things going on late, like I said, in the NL West. But that's what I got right now for September 21st. All right, let's go back to the phones, 808 KNBR. If you want to get on the phone lines, let's go out to Berkeley and talk to Andrea. Andrea, you're on with Bill Lasky and KNBR. How are you today?
Good. How are you doing?
A little scuffling a little bit. My buddy Timmy Haller passed away, a good friend of mine. He passed away yesterday, and just one of those gloomy, doomy days, that's all.
Yeah, I was sorry to hear that. I know he was a regular caller. So
yeah, a good friend of mine for over 20 years. And, of course, Tom Haller was the general manager back in the day in the early 80s. That's where I got to know Timmy. And he signed with the Baltimore Orioles, played a few years in the minor leagues, but he was also a scout with the Chicago White Sox for many years.
Oh, gosh. Well, may the baseball gods and goddesses bless.
Yeah, he had a tough day yesterday. His brother called me. We talked for a while, and just those things just happen so quickly. 62 years old.
Yeah, I know. That's the older I get, the younger that seems.
Well, Andrea, good game today. Giants have really played well on this road trip. They've won 4 out of 5. They have 4 games left. And when they looked at this calendar, this was the road trip I was circling, saying this is going to be a real difficult road trip. And they're playing the best baseball they have played in a while.
Oh, I know. Isn't that ironic? They're playing so
Always
well.
happens that way, right? It's baseball.
They're out of contention, but they're playing as best as they played all year. And, congrats to Landon Roop, fellow Virgo, September 10, 1996, on his first Major League Baseball win.
Yeah, same thing with Mason Black yesterday, and it's good to see that. As I said earlier in the show, Mason Black saying the confidence, knowing that I can pitch in the big leagues, going out there pitching consistently. That's what everybody wants to see out of these young arms, especially in the rotation. And Landon Roop's thrown 3 good ones in a row, all going 5 innings.
Yes.
But still, 56 pitches out of 87 pitches he threw, 56 strikes. That's a good ratio for a young kid.
Yeah, no, Virgo, he's very skillful and disciplined and very organized and precise. So I was really glad to see that. And congratulations to Taurus Matt Chapman, April 28th, 1993. And here's a cosmic coincidence. Baby Gia, his daughter, is Gia, which sounds a lot like the beginning of the name Giants. So Gia Alexandra Chapman. The world can use more Virgos. She was born last week.
Yep.
And,
hit a home run for Mama today, as he said on a post-game show. That was pretty impressive. That was pretty cool. And, every time you have that first baby in a family that Matt has, it's the first is the best. And, of course, it's a baby girl, as you mentioned. And it's exciting times for both of them.
Yeah, no, I was really happy to see that. And I heard his interview, and he was, kind of tired with everything going on, but really exhilarated at the same time and glad he could get back in the saddle and contribute and have 2 home runs. So it was the first time in a long time the Giants went back-to-back with home runs from 2 separate hitters.
They sure did. Back in my day, and I think it was 82 or 83, Chili Davis and Jack Clark did it at one time, and a couple other ones after that. I saw it on a highlight. But, Lamont Wade Jr. all of a sudden getting hot. Mike Yastrzemski all of a sudden getting hot, and it's the last push in the month of September. And these are guys that really got question marks on them for the following year. I just don't feel that they'll sign Michael Conforto, but again, I'm not in the front office. It's my opinion. And you got to start looking at what you have to build within, see if guys are ready to come up. And, of course, Bryce Eldridge is the big number 1 prospect that everybody's looking at. He went through the organization extremely fast this year, and now he's doing well in AAA. So what's next for him, and what could he fulfill at first base? And that's the question mark I think everybody's looking at, is first base is one of the holes that the Giants have to fill.
Yeah, so that'll be good to see what he ends up doing. And, he's October 20th. Wow, 2004. Okay, then.
There you go. Andrea, thanks for the call. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and we'll see what happens tomorrow on an early morning Sunday.
Yes, hopefully a Sunday fun day. And
I'm all for it. Thanks, Andrea. Thanks for your call. Appreciate your time. All righty. All right, let's go out to Oakland and talk to the Oaklander, as he's calling himself. How are you today, Oaklander?
I'm good, Bill. First-time caller.
Well, I appreciate your time today, and it's a sad day, of course, with the Oakland A's as they're finishing up at the Coliseum this week, and I know a lot of Oakland fans are disappointed, as well as Giants fans. It was a great, great time in Oakland with some of the great teams the Oakland A's put out there.
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about this year, and I was wondering, in my mind, this front office is similar to a football player Bill Walsh had played just good enough to lose, and that's Steve DeBerg. And in my mind, this front office does just enough to get to 500 or below. And
it sure seems like that. The last 5 out of 6 years, it's always teetering right at that 500 mark. I know one year they were at 500. They were below 500. It's just, how can they continue to keep doing this and running out the same kind of front office, the same kind of players that Farhan continues to try to find and try to put it together. But Oaklander, it's a big question mark moving forward.
Yeah, I think at this point, you said it, there's 6 seasons here, 5 or 500 or below. And at this point, with the herky-jerky development of young players, you talked about Luciano, we've seen Bart, there's too much of a track record here in which they are rushing prospects and then putting them back down. They're saying they're going to give them at-bats, but then they don't. It's just, there doesn't seem to be an overall vision here for proper development, and as a result, we end up signing veterans that we want to fill holes with, and we're going to go with veterans, but then we want to bring up young guys, but no, they're not doing well enough, so we don't want them. It's just, it's not cohesive. It's not consistent.
I agree. And some of the things on these contracts, all of a sudden, the opt-outs. 1 year and they can opt out if they have a good year, or 2 years they can opt out. And you start looking at longevity of some of these players. I'm glad Matt Chapman's here for a while, but they didn't do that. They did it back in the day, and some of the names and, you know, the pitchers and the fielders, it just didn't work out. And now you're looking at what can Farhan do? Because I'm looking at the numbers. You know, you look at last year, 2023, there were 79 and 83. 2022, 81 and 81. And it goes back to 77 and 85, 73 and 98. Those are numbers that you can't run away from. And the 1 year, of course, they had a great year. It was 107 wins in 2021, but they lose the first round of the playoffs. So that was the year when Buster Posey, Crawford, and Belt, and a slew of some great pitchers. But what do you do here, Oaklander? Do you try to change the direction from the front office? If you're in a management position, if you're one of the owners, what do you do? What's your opinion?
No, I think you absolutely have to make the change, because for me, if I'm in that position, I'm going to sit there and go, we went with Gabe Kapler, we went with the analytics, we were always playing the numbers, the edges, and then, you know, we fired him last year because it wasn't working. So then we brought in Bob Melvin, and Bob Melvin's supposed to be the traditionalist. He's the guy who brings the old guard back, and we're going to play traditional baseball. And where are we? We're right back to being at 500 or below. So either approach isn't working, and if either approach isn't working, then you got to look above and say, front office, it's not working. We need a new macro vision. We need a new leadership here.
You know, I was talking to my producer earlier. We were talking about the same thing, and Farhan came in here with the idea of doing analytics and changed the whole direction of everything, even through the minor leagues. Got rid of Bruce Bochy, got rid of a lot of other people that were part of that coaching staff. Then Ron Woda stayed on, of course, a great, great coach, and does a lot of great work with defense. And you start looking at the direction, and he had, like you said, Gabe Kapler brought over some coaches that really never had opportunities in the big leagues, and he brought them in there. And I don't think the direction was the right way right off the start. And to pick up so many players, and I remember, you know, talking to the AAA manager, Dave Brundage, and he said, Bill, I had over 100 players through my locker room. How do you develop players? How do you see their talent when it's a revolving door? And you can't do that. It just doesn't work, you know, for building a team, but it doesn't work with the players that are playing. How do you get direction, and how do you know if you're going to be here for a week, a month, and then all of a sudden you get in a slump and you're DFA'd? So something's got to change in that direction also.
Well, I think your example of Luciano is just critical. I just don't understand how you can so misjudge a player and say he's going to be our everyday shortstop, and he comes up and he's clearly not ready. You identify the problem. Then you say, oh, well, let's do him at second, but that's not helping him. He has no experience there. And so there's just been terrible misjudgment and misuse of this player, and he may have a great bat, but I don't know if you're ever going to see it in a San Francisco uniform.
I agree, and the confidence on him, you know, coming up, coming down, and then he has that little confrontation with Fitzgerald. Those are all little things that I watch for. You know, is he going to try to build himself into a big leaguer? And going up and down, a couple of hits here and there were good, but a lot of strikeouts is what is in my mind. A lot of called strikeouts too, Oaklander. And as a young kid, I want to go up there and produce. I don't want to walk and drag my bat after watching strike three, and he did that too much. And now, what are the Giants going to do? Now he's going to Arizona to learn the outfield, another position that you're just throwing him out there with absolutely nothing in his resume to play the outfield, and it's going to be difficult. And if he plays fall ball to play outfield and hit the hell out of the ball, what's he going to do next year? Where is he going to play in this outfield at the big league level?
Well, I'm concerned Bob Melvin has no trust in him. I mean, forget about the infield. I'm not sure Bob Melvin trusts him at all.
I agree.
And feels like, you know, he may never pan out. I, as a manager, can't play him. And there you have a disconnect then between the front office and manager. So
yeah, I agree. And you could tell some of the days when, if you remember, when Soler got traded, everything was Luciano's going to be our DH. He's going to play every game. He did it for like 2 or 3 games. I think he went 1 for 12, and you never saw him again. You can't say things in the media. You can't say things in public if you're not going to portray them and push them. And I thought that was one of the things that went wrong on Luciano. Just as well in Farhan at the trade deadline saying the rotation was the best rotation in baseball. But you got to score runs for that rotation to work.
Yeah, I think you've hit it on the head. Farhan has said too many things publicly that have not come true, and people have lost faith and trust.
Yeah, a lot of Giants fans are really spilling their thoughts out, and we'll see what happens. But thanks for the call, Oaklander, and my thoughts and my brain and all the prayers I have for all the Oakland A's fans. Just disappointing for Northern California.
Yeah, it's a real loss.
Yeah, thank you for the call. Let's go out to Lake Tahoe and talk to my buddy Rudy. Rudy, you're on with Bill Lasky on KNBR. How are you, my friend? Are you there? Rudy.
Hello?
I got you now, Rudy. How are you?
Hi, Bill. How you doing today?
Just a doom and gloom day. Good buddy of mine passed away, and, of course, he was a good baseball guy. Knew the game very well. Of course, Tom Haller's son, Timmy, passed away at 62, and, just life goes by so fast. And friends and family, I always tell people, love the people you're with because someday they're going to be gone.
Way too young at 62, obviously. Is it cancer or something such as that? Or
Heart attack.
Not really?
Heart attack. Yeah, I had some issues with health with the heart, and passed away yesterday with a heart attack. And just a tough day when you get family members from Timmy to call me because they knew how close I was with him. And you know what? You just pass the torch and you pray for a good day.
Oh, sorry. Sorry to hear of the loss. But boy, there's been a lot of Giants figures leaving.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Of course, last Sunday, Orlando Cepeda's celebration of life, and earlier in the year, Willie Mays' celebration of life, and so many great baseball players in the game of baseball altogether are falling fast. But Rudy, let's talk about this game. The good game, 9-0, 5 home runs, some really good pitching on some young guys. When you look at Roop, Bivens, and Beck, a good combination for a shutout.
It was good. Unfortunately, I didn't listen to that. I actually bike rode down to the beach and jumped in the lake this afternoon.
Oh, beautiful! A nice cold lake of Lake Tahoe, of course.
A little refreshing is what I like to say, actually.
Well, you talk about ups and downs of the year, no question about it. Are they a 500 team? Can they get there? 7 games left. They only are under 3, but they're playing really good baseball now in this road trip. And one more win tomorrow. They sweep the Royals. They take 2 out of 3 from Baltimore, and everything is kind of gelling with this team now.
Well, tell you what, I think you answered one of the things I was going to ask. During the days of the championship years, who was in charge of defense? Was it Mr. Wotus?
Sure was, and he was fantastic at it.
The one thing that I always pay really close attention to is the defense. And boy, the defense this year, again, it was really hard to watch, man.
It was subject. I mean, it was really not consistent, put it that way. And then mental errors, not throwing the right bases, overthrowing guys, and then trying to throw a guy out and having guys behind him move up. Those are things that are sloppy defense. That's what you kind of, get clean in spring training. Rudy, you know what I'm talking about. You go through spring training and you learn all the different, things that happen during a game. And, you go back to Little League, Rudy, when you say, what do I do if the ball's hit to you? And I think sometimes these big leaguers need to do that.
Well, the structure of the championship teams was obviously pitching and defense. That's what won those World Series. The hitting was timely, but the pitching and the defense were the keys, in my eyes, and always have been with that team.
Yeah, when you look at this team, Rudy, I think a lot of young pitchers got their feet wet in the big leagues. I love the confidence in seeing Landon Roop and Mason Black understand I can pitch in the big leagues and not have that thought in their head. Because when you look at what they did, you look at what Landon Roop goes against Milwaukee and San Diego and Kansas City, and what does he do? He throws 15 innings and only gives up 2 earned runs. That shows a lot of confidence in a young right-hander.
Hey, well, at least bright points for the season. Heliot Ramos, Tyler
100%.
Fitzgerald.
Yeah. A flew of bullpen arms, a flew of them. You know, when you're looking at Miller down there to lefty, even Jelly having a good year, and Ryan Walker another one. And you're looking how many appearances they're in, 70 appearances, and that just shows the durability of the bullpen. You wouldn't like to see those numbers. We saw them last year, but again, they're doing it again this year, and they're really putting some great numbers in the second half.
It's good to see some of the young players get their chances and are producing. So, I mean, obviously going into next year, you know, there's always hope.
Yes, a lot of hope. But they got some holes to fill, and they're going to have to really look at the free agent market and maybe some trades. But a few holes, but they're going to have to figure out who's leading this team. If it's Farhan Zaidi and Bob Melvin once again, then they're going to have to get a different direction of what he's been doing.
Mentioned earlier, Luciano, I remember at the start of the year, he was supposed to be the shortstop.
Coming into spring training. They had him as the starting shortstop.
Who in the organization at the lower levels is responsible for those defensive fundamentals and stuff? Because
I think it's just, you know, when you look at it, Rudy, and you and I have talked baseball for years, it's the fast pace of the big leagues. It's the 30, 40,000, you know, they're cheering loud and loud and loud and loud when you go into visiting stadiums, and it gets too fast. And when younger players are like that, the fast pace and balls hit at you so quickly, you underestimate yourself. You think you can do it, and you just don't. Reaction. You know, all the different balls that were hit at him, and where does he throw the ball, and the direction of where his throws are. And then they move it into second base, and he goes to AAA, try to learn second base. It's just too difficult to do in a month, 6 weeks, and then now he's back in the big leagues. And I just think the young man, when he got to the big leagues, the game was so fast he could not stop it, and he couldn't slow it down for himself.
Well, and moving him around like that, and now I guess trying in the outfield, even though, as you had said earlier, there isn't going to be any room for him in the outfield.
Right.
When the Korean kid comes back, and you got
Jung-Hoo Lee, you got Ramos is going to take a corner. Yeah. Ramos is definitely going to get a corner, and then you got question marks on if Yaz is coming back. You're going to go to arbitration with him, pay him $10 to $12 million. Conforto's another one. I don't believe they'll take him. But you also got to look at Matos, another young outfielder that is a experienced outfielder in AAA.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of funny. I'll close on this point. I took my kids. We went to opening weekend in Reno. The AAA team, the Giants AAA team, was in Reno in April, and Matos was in the lineup. Ramos was in the lineup. Fitzgerald was in the lineup. There were about 5 or 6 guys we saw that day that are playing on the big league team now.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty good. That was nice to see. That we saw that early on in the season, and these guys progressed to the point where they're probably going to stick with the team going forward, obviously.
Boy, when you think of that and you think about how early the season that was and how many AAA guys got opportunities, Rudy, it's amazing how many of them got up to the big leagues and got some at-bats, got some innings. And you just said it. Look at the team they had in the beginning of the year, and then you look at Fitzgerald and Ramos and what they've done at the big league level. It is a big step for them, and they've really accomplished a couple real good players moving forward.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And obviously I wanted to call in one more time before the season ends and say thanks for another good season of banter and talk after the game. It's always enjoyable to listen to your show in the evenings after ball games.
Well, I appreciate your time, Rudy, and I appreciate your support once again for Extra Innings. Thanks for calling in. Have a great offseason too, Rudy. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Got a few more calls coming up, and then Willie Wilson's coming on in a very long interview. Got 2 segments of it. Great interview with Willie Wilson. Of course, I played with the Royals. I was a rookie when I got to go to spring training. I got to meet Willie Wilson and a couple of the key members of that 1985 World Series team, and had a nice chat with Willie about what he did before he got into baseball and how he is progressing now. That's coming up next. So we'll take a quick break, get back to the phone calls, 808 KNBR. I'm Bill Lasky. This is Extra Innings. More coming up right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Lasky keeps the postgame rolling live right here.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
On KNBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM. The sports leader.
Here's a swing, little looper, shallow left. Melendez coming in, and it'll fall, a base hit. Fitzgerald scores, right behind him McRae. Hill scores standing, well ahead of the throw. And Kurt Casale comes through. A 2-out, 2-run single, just blooped it in. And the Giants now have a 6-0 lead.
All right, back on Extra Inning Postgame Show with Bill Lasky. On Saturday, the Giants today, they won 9-0. 9 runs, 9 hits, 9 RBIs. The 3 nines got them their 76th win, and they're 76 and 79, going for a sweep tomorrow. 11-10 right here on KNBR. Blake Snell on the hill, 4-3 with a 3.3 earned run average against Seth Lugo, 16-8 with a 3.05 earned run average. Don't forget, Seth Lugo pitched with the Padres last year, so the Giants hitters have seen him. Today, 5 home runs, 2 by Wade Jr., 2 by Chapman, and the mark was the big one by Mike Yastrzemski, a 3-run home run in the 6th inning when the Giants scored 6 runs on 5 hits, 2 home runs, and they really pushed the game open. And sure enough, the bullpen pitched well when you looked at Spencer Bivens coming in for 2 solid innings. giving up 2 hits, 19 strikes out of 28 pitches he threw. And Tristan Beck really throwing the ball well ever since he's come off the IL. He went 6 up, 6 down, going 2 innings, 13 strikes out of 16 pitches. So the bullpen again from yesterday and today, save for the both wins. Yesterday, of course, they won 2-1. Today, 9-0. And tomorrow, looking for a sweep against the Kansas City Royals before they go to Arizona for the final 3 games of this road trip, and they finish next weekend. The St. Louis Cardinals are here for 3 Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. All right, let's go out to the Walnut Creek and talk to Phil. Phil, you're on Extra Innings with Bill Lasky. Hope you're well today.
Hey, Bill, I'm doing fine. Thank you. Actually, I'm driving back from Tahoe. But listen, you've been around the game for a long time. I'd really like your insight. The Giants are playing particularly well right now. I mean, I don't think they've been 8 out of 10 all season long, probably.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to sort of understand sort of why now. You know, clearly the batting average is up. Clearly the ERA is in better shape. Clearly the slugging percentage is better than it's been. But what makes that happen now? I mean, is Melvin just giving them better motivational speaches? Is
no speeches.
Getting across to some of these lower.
I don't think speeches, Phil. I think they're more relaxed. There's no pressure on them. They're eliminated from the playoffs. And back in my day, September, if you were eliminated, you're playing for yourself. You're trying to get your numbers up because at the end of the year, you're either out the door or you're trying to find a new team or you're trying to solidify your role for the 2025 season. A lot of times you're more relaxed. You're not under pressure. That's why some of these home run balls, Lamont Wade Jr., who hasn't really hit many home runs, both balls today, low and in, and he hit them both out. You look at Chapman. Chapman's got a nice 6-year contract. Coming back very tired after the paternity leave, jumping back and forth from Arizona. But I really think he has made his mark here with the Giants and just how he's played defense. And, of course, the home run balls. You know, when you're looking at 26 home runs and he's got over 75 RBIs, a good year, then you start looking at the players that are really under the microscope. Mike Yastrzemski being one. Is he going to come back or not? At 34 years old, he's got 18 home runs now, a great defensive outfielder. And you start looking at where can he fit in next year? Is he a 4th outfielder? Conforto's up there. You got to look at the catching position with Patrick Bailey. And it's Tom Murphy, who's got another year at $4 million. Are those your 2 catchers next year, or are they going to go and improve them? But I think the whole key is the month of September, they're out. They have nothing to worry about. If they win, great. If they lose, don't worry about it. And this Giants team is sure playing with a lot of confidence on this road trip.
Hey, it's fun to watch. I got to tell you. I mean, you know, I haven't paid that much attention all season long because they just haven't been that much fun to pay attention to. Now, all of a sudden, this is pretty exciting. I've watched more and paid attention more in the last 2 weeks than I have all season. I have to tell you.
Hey, I agree with you. You know,
exciting baseball, really.
And this road trip going agained Baltimore in Baltimore.
What do you got to do to continue that, though?
Yeah, I would love to see it continue.
What do you got to do to continue it? What happened? What has happened? Relax. I get relaxed, but I'm not sure that explains the whole season in the doldrums.
Well, they're a 500 team. You got to look at that. You got to look at what they did on their last homestand. They won 1 game and lost 5. And their homestand was just ugly. Bad defense, bad hitting, striking out a lot. The pitching wasn't that great. And they go on the road trip, pretty much eliminated, and next thing you know, now we're going into Baltimore. Let's try to eliminate Baltimore. Let's put the pressure on Baltimore. They go into Kansas City. Now Kansas City's lost 6 in a row. 2 teams that are under pressure to get into the wild card and playoffs, and you play against them, and you're a little more easy, you're a little more relaxed. And the Giants have played extremely well, as we talked about, Phil. There's no given reason. There's nothing that I can tell you why they're winning. They're playing better baseball, cleaner defense, and the starting pitching with Landon Roop and Mason Black is sure put them in remarkable positions for next year.
But Bill, what happens in a clubhouse? You've been in more clubhouses than I have, for sure.
Nothing's happening. You're happy when you win. You celebrate when you win, and you keep pushing yourself. Each game, you're out there warming up. You're pushing each other. You're looking at the starting pitcher on the opposition and trying to figure out how you can score early runs. And the Giants did yesterday and today with Lamont Wade Jr. hitting a home run in the first inning. You give that young pitcher Landon Root one run to work with, and sure enough, he shuts him down for 5, and you continue on. But there is no explanation of it. They're playing better baseball.
Well, I'll tell you, the coaches must be going nuts. They're like, where have you guys been all season?
Yeah, you know, Patrick Burrow was definitely saying that today after the 5 home runs. Where have you guys been the whole time, man?
Well, it's sure been fun to watch, and Bill, I really appreciate your commentary. So,
well, Phil, thanks for the call, and hey, safe travels.
Carry this over into next year. Okay,
yeah, safe travels, my friend. Be safe. All right, let's go out to Glenn in Visalia. Glenn, what's going on with you today?
Hey, Bill, I wanted to say what a blessing and honor for the whole year that you give us, positive, negative, but you was honest and passionate, and you were a true Giant fan.
Well, thanks, Glenn. I appreciate you, too. I appreciate your phone calls and your support for all of KNBR, because you just don't call in my show. You call in during the week, and I can't be anybody but thanking all the Giants fans out there for supporting Extra Innings, and we talk baseball. That's what this show's all about.
Bill, the 7 and 9 spot, they got to go bye-bye.
What do you mean by that?
They got to be off the team. Because if they resign, they're not going to. The Ramos and McRae is going to be. If I make a mistake, I'm gone. I'm out of the game. With Jasinski and the control gone, there'll be no pressure on them.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how they move forward, Glenn. There's a good handful of guys that are 1 foot in and 1 foot out, more or less, and I think Yastrzemski's like that. You know, you look at all the different players that could opt out. There's some players that could, be free agents, and I think that's going to be a big decision on what the Giants do once the World Series is over, and you start looking at free agents around Major League Baseball. And, Glenn, the biggest thing is what direction this team's going to go. They have to change the direction of their minor leagues and get players going a little quicker and seeing what they can do once they get to the big league level.
Bill, I'm going to say this, that I always will be a Giant fan, and I keep telling myself they're not perfect. But however, Bill, they have to cut down the strikeouts, man. Come on, Bill.
Oh, I agree.
11 strikeouts a game on average.
Oh, I agree. They had 10 strikeouts today after they scored 9 runs, and the strikeouts, and also runners in scoring position. Glenn, you and I talk about that. They got to come back, lower, get better swings, put the ball in play with runners in scoring position, and stop all the strikeouts, as you just talked about.
And your producer, him and Raphael get a standing ovation and Kyle for doing a great job all season for you, Bill.
Yeah, Glenn, thanks so much. Be safe out there, my friend. I appreciate all the calls, and you're absolutely right. Kyle Haar, Greg Silver, fantastic producers for the show for the entire year, and you could go on and on with so many great people that work at KNBR, and I got a chance to go into studio this week and got to see everybody, and haven't been in studio for a few years, and it was just great to say hello to a lot of great people that work at KNBR. Yeah, Glenn, go ahead, right ahead. It's just moving forward, of course. Extra Innings will be on tomorrow. Next weekend we'll wrap up and move forward and try to figure out what's going to happen next year. Try to diagnose what's positive, what's negative. We'll do some closeout shows next weekend. And, of course, the big thing is just continuing to talk Giants baseball with Giants fans. All right, let's go to Ben in Sacramento. Ben, you're on Extra Inning Postgame Show with Bill Lasky. Hope you're well today.
Hi, Bill. I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself, sir?
Ben, I can hardly hear you, my friend. You got a lot of static in your line. It sounds like you could be in a car right now. Can you try it again? And if we don't get you, call back.
Can you hear me now, Bill?
Much better. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate that.
My apologies about that, sir. How are you doing this evening?
Doing okay. Giants win today. I think a lot of Giants fans would have loved to see this little output earlier in the year. Maybe, in the big first half of the year, and the month of August was disappointing. And now you're looking in September, the beginning of the month of September hurt them, and now they're starting to play good baseball, good defense, hitting the ball out of the park, and some great pitching.
Yeah, I think on the surface level, Bill, that's good. You always it's good to finish the season on a high note, but I just, I've been thinking a lot lately since we were eliminated from postseason contention, and I got to say, this has honestly been just one of, if not the most disappointing Giants teams, given the expectations and the pieces that they added and the personnel changes. And I unfortunately just never once looked at this team and thought to myself, wow, these guys can make a playoff run. They can make a deep playoff run. I mean, I thought that when, of course, like on opening day, but not really much before that. So, I mean, they were definitely good on paper, but it's just, it just never really came to fruition. And I think what does not get talked about a lot, Bill, is how bad their record on the road was this year. I mean, I don't have it off the top of my head because I'm driving, but I know that it's well below 500. And
yeah, they won their 35th game. They're 35-42 on the road. They're 41-37 at home. And when you combine that, they're 3 games under 500. But you're so right, Ben. The expectations coming out of spring training, I was really on a high of it because I really thought, by getting Snell, the rotation with Logan Webb and Snell, and you got development with the younger pitchers, and then Snell doesn't really throw well for 2 months, maybe even 3 months, and that just kind of fell through, and now they're starting to piece the rotation together. The hitting just never came about. The veteran hitters just never hit well, and now as you're looking at the last couple weeks of the season, the guys that you thought would be doing well in the first half are now getting hot at the end of the year, and it's kind of too late.
Yeah, exactly. And I think another big problem that they've had, and I love home runs as much as the next guy. I think there was, I don't even want to say that there were too many home runs, but I just think there was a little too much emphasis on, hitting the ball out rather than getting runners in scoring position.
Oh, I so agree. And that's the theory that I think needs to change. And, I hate to say this, going back to old school, choke up, put the ball in play, but I think that has something to do with so many strikeouts. By taking that upward swing, trying to swing too hard, trying to drive the ball out instead of just making contact. And that, that just shows you how many strikeouts this team has. And runners in scoring position, it seemed like every day, Ben, when they'd lose, 1 for 10, 1 for 12. You can't win games like that.
You cannot. And, that's, Bill, unfortunately, I think that's just been a theme of the Giants. Like, they haven't, they're not going to hit too many home runs, but they hit enough to give you the illusion that they're a good team offensively, but when they need to come up in a clutch situation, like you might have like runners on second and third and you're down by 1, like I just never saw it.
And the other thing, Ben, that bothered me a lot were a lot of strike threes called. The call strike threes without even swinging. That mounted so much as the season continued. And I just think you got to go back with different theories. And the analytic numbers, they want you to swing hard. They think you can get better lift and velocity off the bat and things of all that magnitude. But why don't we just talk about putting the ball in play and maybe going the opposite way, as you see a lot of big leaguers do? And that's what I'm hoping Pat Burrell and the rest of the coaching staff kind of change a little bit more moving forward to 2025.
Yeah, and, of course the Giants, we all know the Giants have a lot to consider and think about as far as their front office, with personnel changes and Farhan being the main topic of that. But I would honestly say that I'd say Bob Melvin and his staff, they get the benefit of the doubt in this case, because you're not going to find too many more better managers that are that experienced and that wise than Bob Melvin. And I think that just in this game, we saw what Bochy's Rangers did last year.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, even in this new day and age with all the analytics and stuff, having an old head that is experienced and has been around the game for a long time, even though it's changed a lot, that can help ground teams. And that's what I still have hope that Bob Melvin can get this thing to, help get this thing together and, do what he came to do. But, yeah.
One of the things you just said, Ben, and it's so right when you have a new manager and a new coaching staff to come in and not just learn the big league players, but learn the next step, the AAA players, and how they can impact your team. By Bob Melvin looking at these guys with fresh eyes, as well as Matt Williams. He didn't know the minor league system. He didn't know all the prospects.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them he liked, some of them he didn't. And when I look at Marco Luciano and Matos, I just feel when they put Matos, when he was hitting so well in that 5th and 6th spot, when they moved him to the opening lineup, the leadoff hitter, he just fell apart. He's not a leadoff hitter. And that really changed the direction of Matos, I really believe, as the year went on. Luciano, they pushed him in spring training. It just didn't work. You remember coming in spring training, he didn't hit at all. They go out and get Ahmed. They're trying to figure out who else they can get to play shortstop. And it just turned into a circus at shortstop until Fitzgerald really kind of took it over. But is he your starting shortstop next year? Do they go out and find a real shortstop? That's another question mark.
That is definitely a question mark. And, Bill, I'll leave you with this. I think that, I loved the dynasty years as much as you do, my friend, but obviously we can't work off of nostalgia. And, the reunion this year was just wonderful, and the 2012 reunion was wonderful.
Sure was.
2 years ago.
It was
and
great.
Hopefully they can make up for, the COVID.
Ben, that's 10 years ago. We keep talking about the dynasty, and you start thinking that's 10 seasons ago. And everybody loves it. Everybody remembers it. But we got to change the direction of this team so we can mount the attack to get back into the playoffs and run the World Series. And when you look at the NL West, Ben, Dodgers, Padres, and Diamondbacks are ahead of you.
We were in fourth place.
You got to find out how to compete with them and beat them, and those are big question marks. But, Ben, thanks for the call. I appreciate your time. Safe travels, my friend.
All right. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate you.
Yep. All right, let's go to David. David, you're on Extra Innings with Bill Lasky. Hope you're well on a Saturday. What's going on?
Hey, Bill. Love the show when I can catch it. 2 or 3 observations, and some of it you've just been talking about.
Sure, go ahead.
The body language with Luciano, when I see him in the ballpark, you don't want to bust a guy on what he looks like he's doing, but he does not look engaged. He does not look excited. He doesn't get mad. And I know maybe that's just a level head that he's got, but I don't see I'm ready to say goodbye. I mean, he's had his chances. I also think the drama with Doval, and I think the team blew it by making that the big spotlight thing they were doing for a while.
I agree with you there. I really agree with you, David. I think that put a bigger head on his shoulders than he could compete with.
Yeah, I really do. Overall, I'm encouraged. Obviously, it's fun to see this run and the power hitting coming out. But we're a couple of hitters away.
David, do you think it's false hope? Do you think it's false hope what we're watching?
Well, that's if I was a really wise man, I'd be probably sitting next to you. But
because you know what it is. You're looking at Lamont Wade Jr. and I love Lamont, but he's supposed to be a home run hitter. He's supposed to be driving out of the park, and he hit his 8th home run, 7th and 8th home run, and it's the 3rd week of September. He should be at 15 to 20. So I just how can you judge talent like this at the end of the year?
Well, no, I know what you mean. But they ironically, I don't know if you caught it, but they did a quick interview on camera with him after the game? I believe.
He was on post game.
And he made a real kind of humble statement. He says, "I have not had my legs under me, and I have my legs under me, and I can do this."
Mm-hmm. I heard that.
I think maybe Yeah.
Injuries played a big part of this team. And we remember that from Jung-Hoo Lee getting hurt. That was our leadoff hitter for this team. And some of the things that happened after that, trying to find a center fielder, trying to find corner positions, trying to find a shortstop. And then all of a sudden we forget about Tyro Estrada, who was supposed to be that main guy at second base. He's not even in the picture anymore. So really up the middle, you have two question marks, Fitzgerald. You also have Donovan Walton, which I can't see them looking at for a solid spot for next year. Brett Wisely's another one. You're filling in players, but there's two holes, second and short. As you always talk about, the middle of the infield as well as center field, you got to have good defense to play there.
Well, I love Tyler. He's really come through. And,
sure has.
They're not that far off with the pitching guys that we're seeing now. I mean, holy cow, they've got some really good potential. I mean, all of a sudden Tristan Beck comes in at the end, and he's just kind of wicked.
Well, the other thing too, David, and I'll throw this out to you. I think you have an abundance of pitchers, and maybe you could put a couple of them in a trade. With a young arm like a Mason Black 100%. Or even a Landon Roop or a Tristan Beck or, somebody of that caliber, and go get a good shortstop or a second baseman. Get somebody here for 2 or 3 years when you can throw in some good pitching, but you don't want to start deleting the pitching staff for one player. I think it's going to be a direction that they're really going to have to look at and what's out there and what they can afford.
Well, and they need to afford. I mean, this is a very prosperous franchise. They own their stadium. It's been paid off for like 7 or 8 years now. If any team really wants to go for it and compete with what's being spent out there, these guys need to be prepared to do that.
Yeah,
and
I agree with you, David. I agree with you, and great points on Luciano and Matos and Ramos and Fitzgerald. A lot of young players, and just don't know what direction the Giants are doing. But thanks for your call, David. It's a pleasure talking to you.
All right. Thank you, Bill.
All right, coming up next, I sit down with Willie Wilson, and what a great guy. Just a great career he had, 12th on the all-time stolen base mark. Just a real mainstay with the Kansas City Royals, and I said earlier, he was inducted into the Kansas City Hall of Fame. That's coming up next right here on Extra Innings on KNBR, the sports leader.
Bill is back.
Fired up, bringing it, all excited.
This is KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Lasky.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Listen on your Google Home smart speaker by saying play KNBR.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Post-Game Show with Bill Lasky. I'm honored to have my guest on today. 19 years he played in Major League Baseball. He was a two-time American League All-Star, a World Series champion in 1985, a Gold Glove winner, a two-time Silver Slugger. He was the American League batting champion in 1982 with a .332 batting average, and also American League stolen base record in 1979 with 83. In the year 2000, the Kansas City Royals inducted him into their Hall of Fame. Let's welcome in Willie Wilson. Willie, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. That sounded pretty good.
Yeah, you know what? I researched a little bit, my friend, and I tell you what, an honor to have you on today. And, of course, I came up behind you at the Kansas City Royals. I got to meet you a few times in spring training. But watching you at your career when I was going through the minor leagues, it was just a day after day. You were just a great player.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. But, you know, it wasn't just me. It was the way those guys performed before I got there. And their rules were this is what you had to do to stay up and perform. And so if you didn't perform, man, you were going back down to AAA, and I didn't want to go there.
Well, let's start off with a different notion here. You know, you had a great baseball career, but you almost changed here. You almost went another direction. And let me go back in time with you. You grew up in New Jersey. You went to Summit High School. And you were a 3-star athlete in football, baseball, and basketball. And football was just a priority. You really played well. I want to know what position you played. And after high school, you had a handful of colleges that were trying to get you to sign. Matter of fact, you did sign a letter of intent to go to University of Maryland. Tell me a little bit about your football career.
Well, you know, I really loved football. It was something that I slept and dreamt about, and in our hometown, small town that it was, we had a really good football tradition. So, you know, once I started playing, I got some offers from some colleges, and I went to visit a few colleges, went to visit Michigan, Ohio State, and then I got to Maryland, and I really liked the facilities there. I liked the program there, and I liked the coach. Mm-hmm. And even though, you know, Bo Schembechler and Woody Hayes and those guys are really good coaches, I just felt like they had so many running backs that I wanted to go to Maryland where they didn't have as many, and the position that I played was kind of a wing back, tailback position. So, you know, I could go in the slot and run some passes, and then in the back in the tailback position, I would run the ball from the I position. So it was fun. And once I got to Maryland and I saw this guy there named Randy White. I don't know if you know about him, but
sure
he was
I do.
pretty good.
He wore that star on his helmet for many years.
Yeah. So I actually, they did a spring game, and I saw him chase a running back down. He saw that it was going to be a screen. He read it well, and he chased him down. And I said to the coach, who is that guy? I want to meet that guy. So he was in the shower. I hope this is a regular program here. But the coach called him, and he came out of the shower, had a towel on, and he was just built, right? And here I was, 6'2", 190 pounds. And the coach goes, Randy, I want you to meet our next running back, Willie Wilson. And he just looked at me, and he just said, I hate running back.
Thanks.
Right. So my brain is just going, this is it. So I just go, you know, I could play safety. I could, you know, do
I could change my position.
Right.
Exactly.
But if I got to run into you every day, I think I'm going to go play baseball. So that is the reason I didn't go through with the football thing. So,
did you have many injuries in high school playing football?
I had not a lot of injuries. I had one really bad injury, and I had gotten clipped from behind, and I cracked the bone in my lower back. And to this day, it gives me a little problems, and I'm kind of off kilter every now and then. Got to go to the chiropractor. But there's another story. Another guy was recruiting me for the University of Kansas, and his name was Gale Sayers. So I had a lot of guys that were coming to me that were Hall of Fame guys.
Sure.
And, it was really kind of cool to have those guys. It was just, he came to visit me in the hospital. And so I remember that vividly. And I tried to get up, and he just told me to just relax and wanted me to come to Kansas. So obviously I didn't, but just to have Gale Sayers, who was my guy that I idolized, and I tried to make my running style like he did. So it was really kind of cool to meet my idol.
Willie Wilson joined me on the Extra Inning postgame show. Well, baseball came around in the spring, and it was cold, of course, in New Jersey, but you put numbers up fantastic. 436 your senior year. Of course, speed was a major part of all your sports, 28 stolen bases. And the Kansas City Royals came knocking on your door, and they selected you in the 1974 draft, the first pick, 18th pick overall. Now, coming out of high school, I always ask this question. Mentally and physically, were you prepared to do this? Because as a number one pick, you know everybody had their eyes on you. They had their eyes on you and everything you did. You ended up signing, but you were a young kid coming out of high school. How did that all transpire for you?
Well, the reason I think I got picked 18th is every time someone called my house, I would say, I'm going to go play football. So it was really kind of weird. And the only people that didn't call was the Kansas City Royals. So when I found out about it, I was walking through the hallway going from class to class, and my basketball coach told me, Ed Lyons, he told me I was drafted number one, and I was really kind of upset. Didn't know the process, didn't know what was going to happen, stuff like that. So I finally got Al Diaz, which was the scout that signed me. He came to the house. My coach, my football coach, he actually had a lawyer friend, and actually the lawyer was one of our old high school quarterbacks. And so he had the lawyer do a pro bono for me to talk to the agent, because I couldn't I wasn't, if I was to talk, I had to talk through the lawyer. I couldn't talk directly to the Royals because I would have become a professional, and then I wouldn't have been eligible to go play football if I wanted to go do that. So it was really like, they're sitting there listening to me say exactly what I'm telling my lawyer to tell them. But anyway,
it worked out, Willie. It worked out great because you ended up signing, and you ended up going through Rookie League, and of course, Gulf Coast Rookie League in Sarasota, Waterloo for A-ball. Jacksonville, hey, I'm right there with you. I wore the same uniforms a couple of years behind you. Jacksonville Suns, and Jacksonville was Double-A. And that year was really a growing year for you. You had hit 253, hit 37 stolen bases. And in 1976, at 20 years old, the Kansas City Royals called you up in September. Excited for that moment? How did that all turn out for you?
Man, in all respect, I should never have been in the big leagues. I mean, I quit. I had pulled a hamstring that year, and I was out for a little bit, and it was a doubleheader. And I didn't play the first game, so I just quit. I just drove. I drove, and I got halfway there, and then I turned around because I was listening to the game on the radio. I came back, put on a wet uniform, and then peeked my head around the corner, and the manager looked at me, and then he didn't play me the second game.
Mm-hmm.
So after he didn't play me, he took me down the left field line, and he said, "You want to know why I didn't play you in either one of these games?" And I was like pissed off. Yeah,
sure you were.
Right. Says, "Because you're going to the big leagues tomorrow."
Wow. Boy, that's a night and day situation right there.
Yeah, so you quit, and you come back, and you go to the big leagues. So
yeah,
that was surprising.
Well, you go up. You didn't play much. You only had 6 at-bats, but it was the point of going to the big leagues and seeing what the big leagues were at 20 years old. I mean, you're 3 years into your minor league career. Now, of course, the following year, you end up going to Omaha in AAA, the Omaha Royals at Rosenblatt Stadium, and everything started working that year. You had a better year. 4 home runs, 47 RBIs, 74 stolen bases, and now you get called up in 77 in September. Now you got a little bit more playing time. 34 at-bats, 324. You started seeing the big league level. When you made that adjustment, of course, from Jacksonville to Omaha, what were your adjustments in Omaha playing AAA?
Well, first of all, they told me I was a strictly right-handed hitter. From all my career. When I went to spring training out of AA to AAA that year, they told me, okay, we want you to switch hit.
Mm-hmm.
So I started switch hitting in AAA. So when I got there, I was inside out in the ball, hitting everything away from first base, and it just got to the point where it was feeling more comfortable that I could hit that way, and I hit for a higher average than I did in any other level. I had more home runs in A-ball and stuff like that, but I figured they didn't want me to be a home run hitter. They wanted me to get on base, steal bases, score runs. And that was my job. And so for me, after I got a chance to go to the big leagues, to see the AstroTurf, to basically see how Amos Otis, John Mayberry, George Brett, Frank White, Cookie Rojas, Freddie Patek, all those guys that had speed, how they, did what they did. I just tried to do my job, and that was it. And so, like I said, when I got there in AA, their first things with me is, rookie, we don't have excuses up here. You either do the job or you don't. So,
now, Willie, did you play center field in the minor leagues, or were you playing the corner outfielders? Because when you came up to the big leagues, Amos Otis was the center fielder, and they kind of put you in left field. Did you have experience in left field in the minor leagues?
No. I never played left field, and it was all center field no matter what level I was in. And, ironically, when I was played in high school, I was a catcher. So I caught from 8th grade to 12th. And then when I got to the minor leagues, they made me a center fielder. So there was some things that I had to get over. But basically, I never thought they were doing anything to make me a bad ball player. And I think that's the difference of some people, why they make it, why they don't make it. I always thought that everything that they were doing to me or for me was for me to get to where I needed to be. So that was my mindset and what I wanted to do and what I wanted to accomplish. And so if I fought that, it wasn't going to really do me any good. So I just tried to do the very best that I could do because I felt like that's what they wanted me to do.
Well, the following year, 1978, you're 22 years old. You finally got to play pretty much all year, but it wasn't until the following year, 1979, 154 games, of course, 83 stolen bases. Everything started gelling. You hit 315 that year. And I always go back in time here, 92 strikeouts. It 588 at-bats. That tells me a lot, of course, back in our era when we played, putting the ball in play. And, of course, the turf was huge for you. But it was putting the ball in play and using your speed. How did you justify that?
Well, I mean, our batting coach was Charlie Lau, and he was pretty good. Mm-hmm. So he got us to really kind of swing down on the ball and kind of like, I don't know how you could say it, but like chopping the ball in half, and the ball, if you catch it right, it takes off like a plane. So, those things just started developing for me. I was able to relax and let the game come to me and not try to do too much. And then therefore, when you hit it on turf, everybody reacts quick because you're quick. So that they're going to make errors. They're not going to get to the ball in time. And so all of that, it made it a really good time and a really good year. And it was really cool because I started my first 18 games, and then that whole rest of the year I didn't play. I didn't play up until probably April or end of May or beginning of May because everybody was hurt. And I got my opportunity. So to the young kids, when you get an opportunity, take advantage of it.
No doubt about it. That was Willie Wilson, part one. More coming up right here on Extra Innings on KNBR, the sports leader.
The game may be over, but we know you want to talk more ball. So KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Lasky continues.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
We are KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Post-Game Show. More with Willie Wilson. And we talked about 1979, 83 stolen bases, your first in the American League. You ended up having 668 total for your career, 12th on the all-time stolen base record. Of course, when you get to the big leagues, it's faster. Moves from the pitchers are quicker. How much did you work on that in spring training in Fort Myers and then during the season in Kansas City?
Well, we worked on it a lot, especially, I can't give all the credit to me. I had to do it, but I had to learn. And the guy that taught me a lot was Amos Otis. And he was really the first superstar the Royals had. But he taught me a lot about movements, pitchers, what they do, the guys I didn't know, Ron Guidry, he was pretty easy to steal on, but you had to get on.
Yeah,
so,
true.
But if Guidry tucked his chin down, he was going home. If it stayed up, he was going. Because when a power pitcher tucks, he's ready to go. So just little things like that, Amos really gave me a lot about. And then because we were on turf, it gave me a little bit more jump to speed to try to do a lot of things. So it was really kind of fun. But after a while, you got to learn to tone it down because you don't want to steal when your best hitter's up. Because they'll walk your best hitter. So there's things you got to learn. There's counts you got to learn. In today's game, boy, I'd make you throw over twice and I'm gone.
Exactly. There's no question about it. And the lead that you would have would be on the turf, not on the dirt. You were so quick and agile on the bases, but something else that you really performed extremely well was playing center field. After Amos Otis got hurt, you had an opportunity to come from left field to center field. In 1980, the Rawlings Gold Glove Award went to you. In your 19-year career, you ended with a .987 fielding percentage. Fantastic. 67 errors. That's it in 19 years in 2,031 games. How much did you work on that? How well did you get the gaps? How much did you help your left fielder and right fielder? Because they had to play a little bit over because you had that speed to get in the gaps. I remember this. I remember how well you played, how sometimes you played in because they couldn't hit the ball over your head. There were so many things at Kauffman Stadium that you learned how to play center field, but you were magnificent.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But center field was, I always felt like it was the easiest one to play. Because the corners felt like, if you made one bad false step in the corners, the ball's over your head or it's in front of you. Whereas center field, you saw the whole batter. You saw everything in front of you. And so, there's things that I used to do. I never looked at the whole batter. What I was saying, I had the whole pitcher in front of me, but I just concentrated on the bat. And if you just concentrate on the swing of the bat, not the body motion of the hitter, you just watch the bat. And so that's how I tried to get really good jumps, make everything smaller. And so with my outfielders in the beginning, I really loved playing left field with Amos in center and Al Cowens in right. But when I got to center field, we had some really good outfielders also out there. And so, Pat Sheridan at one time, Darryl Motley, Lonnie Smith, Danny Tartable, those guys could play. And so for me, it just made it a lot easier. And they all knew that I was in charge. And I'm not trying to be cocky or anything, but your center fielder is like your shortstop in the infield. They're the guys that are in charge. And Frank White taught me a real simple thing about, when I'm playing and I'm looking at another guy that's got 8 golden gloves. He just told me something real simple. If you see my back, I got it. If you see my face, you come as hard as you can and take it. So when I see people running after the ball and the outfielder sees his face and they don't call it, it really bugs me because
that's great advice.
Doesn't have
that
a
really
chance
is.
for it. If you see my back, I got it. You see my face, you come get it and call me off no matter what, because you're coming as hard as you can come to take that ball. And when, for an outfielder, you just try to simplify everything because your job should be easy out there. Only you're the one that's making it hard. And so for little stuff like that, you just have to talk to people, play with people, and even if you don't know a person, when you just give them that simple rule, if I see your face, I'm coming to get it. If I see your back, I think you have it.
Yeah, great advice right there, Willie Wilson.
Right.
Well, in 1982, you got elected into your first American League All-Star game. 1983, right back at it, 2-time All-Star. The first one was in Montreal. You walk into a locker room, Freddie Lynn, Reggie Jackson, Cecil Cooper, Bobby Grich, Carlton Fisk. What'd you think about it? Because that was your first time being an All-Star.
Well, it was very exciting. And, when you're looking at people that you saw on TV a few years before you got there, it really is mind-boggling. But you have to say to yourself, and I think every player somewhere around there, you have to be a little confident. I'm not saying cocky. You have to be confident and say, I belong here. And so that's the stuff that you got to feel, because I think they feel like if you don't act that way, you don't belong there. Because all of those guys feel the same way. I belong here. And so when you do that, you just feel like you accomplished what you wanted to do. You wanted to be, an all-star. You wanted to win a Golden Glove. You wanted to win a batting championship. You wanted to win a World Series. When all of that happened, I was already at the mountaintop.
Well, it's true. Really cool. And it's always that first All-Star game, when you walk in, like you say, you're trying to be, like everybody else, but you're seeing all these superstars. And when I named half of those guys, they're all in the Hall of Fame. And it just justified it right after 1983. You ended up going to Kaminsky Park in Chicago, and you got a double off Pascual Perez, who pitched for the Atlanta Braves. That game didn't go the National League way. My buddy Atlee Hammaker gave up a grand slam to Fred Lynn, but you guys really played well in that game. You won 13-3. Tell me your memories of Kaminsky.
Well, at another ex-Royal too.
Yeah.
So
number one pick from the Royals.
He
came out here. He came out here to San Francisco, and along with a few other ones. But Atlee was a fierce competitor, and he just didn't have it that day. He had pitched the last game before the break. But going to an All-Star game, especially going into an American League All-Star field with Kaminsky, how did you enjoy that whole part?
Well, we've always, at that particular game, we would get really pounded because the National League just kept, beating the crap out of us all the time, the American League. And the guys who stayed in the National League stayed in the National League, and the guys in the American League pretty much stayed in the American League, right? But this year, for some reason, we had, he was catching for Milwaukee, and
Ted Simmons?
Ted Simmons, who used to be a National Leaguer and with St. Louis. And so, he gave us like a talking to these guys think you're this, they think you're that.
He fired you up.
So he fired us up. And then, Freddie hit the grand slam, and Lynn hit the grand salami, and we were off and running, man. We just felt like we had a better team, and we had better this. And we were fired up from them because they had beat us like 12 consecutive years in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, they were just dominating. So it was kind of cool to finally beat them. And so being in Chicago, being in a American League city for at that time, I won't say city because the White Sox and the Cubbies are there, but just a American League ballpark. So it was pretty cool.
A few more minutes with Willie Wilson on Extra Inning Postgame Show. We talked about switch hitting when you first started doing it. And in 1982, what a fabulous feat you had. 100 hits from both sides, from the right side and the left side. First one to do it since Mickey Mantle. When you got this record, when you saw what you did as being a switch hitter, what did that tell you? What did that tell you about the feat that you just did?
Well, first of all, you know, you don't really know what you're doing until like the last week or so when they start telling you what's going on, right? So you're like, oh, right, really? So you're like, I knew I had 130 hits left-handed, and I had 98 right-handed.
Wow.
And I had to what was it? No, that's wrong. Yeah, no, that's right. And then I had to get 2 hits, righty on righty,
to get to the 100.
To get it. Right. So I hit 2 sliders up the middle, and that's when I knew I was really gonna, do it. 100 hits from both sides. But it was really kind of cool, man. And I didn't know that I was the first one since that long. I knew I was the first one. The neck, because the year before, Gary Templeton did it in the National League as a switch hitter. So I knew I was the first one in the American League in a while, but I didn't know for that long.
Well, we talked about speed, we talked about stolen bases, and one other thing you did, you had 13 inside the park home runs. That feat is just remarkable. Do you remember one that was special for you?
Yeah. Well, there was 2 actually. The very first one I hit, I was just trying to hit a fly ball with a man on third and got on top of a high fastball and hit it in the gap. But and that was in old Kaminsky, so that was pretty cool. But one I remember the most was I think it was we were either 9-9 or 8-8 playing the Yankees, and we went into the 9th inning, and then I hit a semi-line drive to left center and cleared the bases and won the game. I won 10-9 or 9-8, something like that, and that was pretty cool because it was on the game of the week. Because back in those days, you only got Saturday game of the week. Remember, Joe Garagiola and Tony Kubek?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
So that was it. And so for me, everybody, especially in my hometown and back in the East Coast, got to see that. And we were playing the Yankees, so that was pretty cool.
Well, as we wind down with Willie Wilson at Extra Innings, one of the things that happened to you in your career in the year 2000, the Kansas City Royals inducted you into the Hall of Fame. When you think about that and all the memories you had, 15 years playing with the Kansas City Royals, when you sit down and think about what happened and you're in this Hall of Fame, what does that mean to you?
Well, it means a lot. It means that the Royals appreciated what I did. The city appreciated what I did, and the players appreciated what I did because they're the ones that have to pick. And I'm just proud to have been a Royal. I'm proud to have accomplished those feats. And, being a Hall of Famer, it just means you've done something good, and you want to keep doing good because that's what Hall of Famers do.
Well, Willie, it was a pleasure talking to you today, and just a great recollection of your great career, and I appreciate your time today.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for thinking about me. Appreciate it.
Yep, that was Willie Wilson on Extra Innings. More coming up right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
listening to the former Giants righty. It's KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Lasky.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Heard on your Apple HomePod by saying play KNBR.
Welcome back to Extra Inning Postgame Show with Bill Lasky as we close out a Saturday. Giants win today 9-0. They won the first two games in Kansas City. On tomorrow at 11:10 a.m. right here on KNBR, Blake Snell against Seth Lugo to close out the three-game series. Extra Innings will be on after that game. Dennis Leonard, another Hall of Famer from Kansas City, will join me. Today, I want to thank my guest, Willie Wilson, and I want to thank him for joining me. You can hear him on all KNBR podcasts if you missed that. I want to thank my producer today, Greg Silver and Kyle Haar, for working the phones. And always, I want to thank all you Giants fans for picking up the phone and calling me. We'll do it again tomorrow afternoon. Bill Lasky, be well, be safe. More coming up right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
It's another great outing for the righty on your home of San Francisco Giants baseball. This is KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Lasky.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader. This is the Infinity Sports Network on KNBR, the
Brewers
Sports
had done
Leader.
previously. So you got 2 out of the 6 divisional winners locked, Brewers and Guardians. Teams that have clinched a playoff spot haven't locked up their division yet, but they know because of their record they're already at worst getting in as a wild card, include the Phillies, the Yankees, and the Dodgers. So with a little bit more than a week to go, we've already got 5 of the 12 teams locked into the upcoming postseason. the team that's actually making it kind of interesting, that could be real fun here when I come on next weekend here on the Infinity Sports Network, they may still be hanging in the balance. How about the Detroit Tigers coming out of nowhere, have won 10 of their last 13 games. They picked up a game on the Twins today, so now they're only a half game back of the third and final wild card spot in the American League. All of you who counted the Detroit Tigers out, raise your hand. Oh, I'm raising mine. But I did say, the only defense I have for giving Detroit some leeway was when we were at the trade deadline and Tariq Skubal's name was being kicked around. He's the Tigers' #1 starter. He's probably the Cy Young Award winner in the American League this year. I couldn't believe that they were even talking about it. You only do that if you are going to trade your best player and at a trade deadline, not during an offseason, at a trade deadline. The only way you're going to do that is if you are in a